Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Liquis Digital Marketing Podcast. In this episode, we are talking about the anatomy of a high converting sales page. What is a sales page? We've been talking a lot about the different pages on your website. So what is the sales page? Do you need it? And where does it fit into the grand scheme of things? Okay, so first let's start off with what a sales page is. So a sales page is basically a page on your website dedicated to do one thing, and that thing is to sell. Sell your product or sell your service. So sales pages are not your home page or landing pages or your service pages or contact pages. A sales page is part of your customer's buying journey and should be incorporated into your sales funnel. All right, so in this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a little bit more about like what a sales page is and what it is not. We're going to go through when and where to use a sales page and what your sales page should include. How is a sales page different from a landing page? So what's the difference? Well, first off, let's talk about what a landing page is. A landing page, you'll hear landing page, you'll hear lead page, you'll hear sales page. There's a lot of different types of landing pages. So these terms are get used interchangeably and kind of differently depending on who's using it. So a lot of times a landing page, really all that means is it's the page people land on when they come to your site. When people talk about it in that context, that could be your landing, or that could be your home page. That could be, a service page or any page on your website because that's the page that they landed on. So when you're kind of talking about analytics, that's kind of like how the landing page is used or talked about. But what we're talking about is where a landing page is more like a lead page. So a lead page would be more of like a page where you're just capturing a lead. So its sole purpose is to capture and nurture leads through, maybe providing value of some type, or they're filling out a form and getting, some free download in exchange for their email address. So that's kind of like what a lead page, or what we're calling a landing page, what that is. So a landing page is more for cold audiences. It's usually shorter copy, because there's less, you're not trying to sell, you're trying to just entice, right? To download this free download, right? So how is a sales page not your home page? Why can't it just be your home page? Well, a typical homepage on a typical website is the gateway into your website. So it's kind of like the page that funnels the traffic. It's to sell your brand at a high level overarching view. So it's kind of like the all-encompassing, hey, this is who we are, this is how we help you, this is all of the things about us. We're trying to get you to come on in, right? It's a sign on the door. That's what the homepage is. Your homepage doesn't have the sole purpose of making you buy in that moment. So here's a good one. How is your sales page not your service page? Because now it really kind of starts to get a little gray, because your service page, now you're talking about what you're offering. Wouldn't that be the sales page? In some cases, possibly. 90% of the cases, no. So a service page serves as a greater unit as part of your main website. It's also going to have a navigation. It's going to have outbound links. You're going to have, it's just another page on your website that has everything else on it. And it's where you're describing your service, and then they can kind of compare your other services and look at who the team is and, learn more about you. And it's not the page where you're selling necessarily, right? A sales page is where you're selling. It's that page that has the one call to action. It has no outbound links. It has no navigation on it. The only thing you can do on this page is either move forward through clicking a button to the next step, or filling out that form, or whatever that one thing is, or closing the browser. That's it. They can't do anything else. And that's what a sales page should be. with the only intention of them buying what you're selling on that page. That's it. That's what the sales page is. Now that we know what the sales page is and what it is not, when should you be using a sales page? Well, you may not necessarily always need a sales page. You really want to think about your buyers and your buyer journey. The sales page should be the page where they're putting in their credit card or where they're actually purchasing. This probably falls more in line. Well, it could be a product too, right? It could be a course, it could be an event, it could be a service, whatever. It's the page where they're actually buying, not where they're trying to decide whether they're going to buy. It's where they're buying. You really want to look and you want to have a funnel of a buyer's journey. You want to think about, okay, if this person's coming to my website and, what information, where are they at in the buying journey? Are they still comparing us and to other services? Are we the right solution? Are they there, or are they, now they know that we can solve their problem. They know that we, are a good fit for them. And now they're in the process of taking the next step, buying the product or buying our service. Okay, so that's what you want to think about when you're thinking about your sales page. It should be the last page. You shouldn't be able necessarily to get to the sales page in your main navigation. I guess, yeah. There's going to be some rebuttal on that one because there probably are some situations where that would be true. But in the most case, it's not, right? It's a lot of times people might land on that page organically to consume the information and buy. But sometimes, or a lot of times, it's that page that they'll get to because you provided them a link to it or they navigated through another page. If you are part of the selling process, then you're going to probably start with your service pages and then send them to the sales page when it makes sense, right? So this kind of ties into what we were just talking about. You're going to send them to that sales page. So like for us, I'm a big part of the selling process for most of our products. People aren't buying our services typically right on the website. I take that back. There is a point when we do send a proposal, and that is a sales page. And, once I've met with them, I send them a proposal. They go online to buy or to pay for the service. There's reiterations of, the scope of work, what we include, testimonials, what to expect, all of that stuff, pricing. Okay, so that's our sales page. That comes after. And you can't even get to that without talking to me first. I have to even develop that page for you. In our case, very, very different. I'm a big part of being in that process. Or even if you have a sales team, there's probably maybe a page that the public wouldn't go to until they talk to you first. Then you would send them to that sales page. If you're trying to remove yourself as much as possible from the sales process, then you're going to want to really focus a lot more on dialing in this sales page because the sales page has to do all of the heavy lifting. So if you're trying to remove yourself from the sales process, then the sales page really becomes a much bigger piece of your website. And this is where you really need to put in a lot more thought into it. And make sure you have the sales page dialed in because it's going to do the heavy lifting of your selling versus you doing it. So the length of it should be, a little bit longer at that point. Let's dive into what you should include in your sales page. What you should include in your sales page. First off, let's go with length. How long should these pages be? How much content should they have? Well, typically, the higher priced item you have, the longer content you're going to need on your sales page. The more objections or the more complex your product or service is, the longer the content you're going to need on these pages. Generally speaking, what they say is no more content than needed. However, you're going to need, when we think of longer content, over probably 500 words, right? You're going to need, and the benefit of having a longer page is because if they need to, it's going to give you the opportunity to isolate more of those or tend to more of those objections that people will have. It's going to give you more area on the page to talk about the benefits and really sell them on it and give them all of the information that they need to make that purchase. So that's kind of the length. If it's a less expensive item and not very complex, it's pretty simple to understand. There's not a ton of objections to it, and all of the pages that they would have visited before, they don't necessarily need to have all of this content, then it might hurt you to have a really long page because now they have to sift through all of this content to figure out what to do next. So having a shorter page at that time would probably be more beneficial to you. So, if you don't know, then you probably want to test, but you probably, if you're selling a product that's over $2,000, then a longer sales page is probably what you're going to need to have. So let's talk about the copy or the verbiage. What should it include? Well, it needs to address the right audience. So this goes back to some previous episodes where we talk about dialing in who your audience is. And if you don't know who your audience is, then we have a guide that can actually help you with that. And it's in our resources page. I'll put it in the show notes, but basically it's our website content planner, and it's going to allow you to, it actually you can add on some bonus items, and it comes with an avatar creator where you can create your own avatar for your company so you know who your audience is and you write content for them. So you want to make sure you're writing the right content for the right person. You need to have a magnetic headline that hooks in the reader into reading more. So just because it's a sales page, you can't assume that they're not going to just bounce off of it and not move forward, right? You always have to be thinking ahead and making sure that you're driving them to read more into the page. So having a good headline that hooks them in to read more. You need to still explain the benefits. If you are writing a longer page and you're having to include the benefits and the features and all of the stuff that's included, then explain the benefits first and then explain the features second. Always explain the benefits and then explain the benefits first. Okay, so using the right language. So you want to address the customer directly by using the words you. You want to make them feel like they're a part of your team, so using words like we. You want to show empathy, so you want to empathize. I can't even say that. Empathize with them. You want to tell a story to relate to them, right? So that's the other piece, is having a story that is, about you, but talks about the, Russell Brunson does this really well in his books, and he talks about this a lot, but, telling that story of the journey he had to take and how, this helped him, so having that story that's relatable. And that can be challenging to do, but, that's a very powerful tool. And then also using power words to show emotion. Okay, this page should also have an area where it's handling objections. You should know what your common objections are from your audience. Like, what do people typically say when they don't want to buy? Well, you need to be able to address those items in your content on this page. That is important on a sales page, is handling objections, because that's usually what's stopping people from buying, is those objections. You need to have social proof. You need to be able to prove that they can trust you. So testimonials, video testimonials, people you've worked with, showing your work, case studies, whatever it might be, social proof. You want to make sure from a design perspective that the content is skimmable and easy to consume and broken up. You don't have big, long blocks of text. If possible, you want to create a sense of urgency. This can be done in some various ways. Maybe you only have a certain amount of spots open, or this offer is only going to be valid for the next so many days or whatever. So things like that, or there's only so many more available. So there's a sense of urgency to get people to take the action. So a question that we get asked a lot is, should you include your price on these pages? And I would say almost always the answer is yes. You want to include your price, especially if they're making the purchase on the site. They need to know what they're paying for, obviously. But maybe they're not actually making the purchase. You should still have some price indication, right? So a range or an example, if you don't want to put a price or even a range like a dollar amount, you could say people usually spend 10% of their budget in, with this item. So let's say you're, a wedding photographer that, hey, a wedding planner will typically, or your, photography will typically be 10%, should be 10% of your, wedding budget or whatever. I don't know if that's accurate or not, so don't quote me on that. It should include FAQs, and this is another area where you can handle those objections. A guarantee. If you can, you want to offer a guarantee of some type, right? So a money-back guarantee or whatever, a guarantee, taking the risk out of the purchase is always a good idea if you can. And I always recommend that. And then, of course, a clear call to action. If you don't have that call to action, don't expect to have results. You need to have that call to action, telling them exactly what to do, whether it's fill out this form and what to expect next, or click on this button and what action to take next. Give them the action and what to expect. So that's your sales page. Before we end this, I just want to talk about your website content. We've been talking a lot about it, and if you're looking to take your website to the next level, really the first place that you want to start with is your content. So the success of your website is primarily determined by its content, and a website with the right content, or I'm sorry, the website without the right content is really useless regardless of how well it's designed and how pretty it is. The purpose of your website should be to achieve a measurable result, and it's the content's job to drive that visitor towards your goal. So you need to have the right content on your website. The design and functionality is very important, but it's there to support the content and enhance the visitor's experience. It's the content's job to drive them to the goal. It's the design and functionality to support the content. What we have found in all of the years we've been doing websites is most people undervalue and overlook the content when they go to build their sites. It's usually kind of like the afterthought. Usually it's the visuals because that's what you see, but really the most important piece of a website is the content. So we created this Wealthy Website Content Planner, and it's your complete guide to creating valuable website content that's going to attract and convert your ideal customers. In the notes, I'm going to put a link. You can click on it to learn more about what the content planner is, and go in there and download your content planner kit, and that's going to really take your site to the next level and get you attracting and converting those ideal customers. All right, so that's going to wrap us up for today. If you enjoyed this and found this valuable, please like and subscribe, share this with your friends, and we'll see you in the next episode.